One of the favorite business management books that I reference, highly recommend you guys pick it up, is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, the popular Silicon Valley VC behind some of the great names, Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb, to name a few. And he quotes in his book, "Great CEOs face the pain." And so the book is really about how there's no recipe for the challenges you're most likely going to face as an entrepreneur or even working for a growing startup company. And that these, there's no quick answer, but that the best way to get advice for how to deal with these challenges is not by asking for advice, it's by asking someone to share their story. And it's in those stories that, if you dive deep, you're going to see patterns and you're going to see lessons emerge that you can relate to. And so today I'm going to share with you a story instead of giving you advice. So back in 2008, I just graduated Royal Roads University in Victoria with my BCom in entrepreneurship. And I had worked really hard. I got about $25,000 in scholarships together. But instead of paying off my student loans, I walked down the street and I opened up my first business bank account. And I deposited that $25,000 and incorporated Ethico Solutions, Inc. I had an idea to introduce people to greener choices in their local cities, so kind of like a green Yelp. And my vision was to advance the sustainability movement city by city across North America. So with my $25K in the bank, I felt unstoppable. It was an online platform, so I didn't know anything about coding, so I thought, okay, I need a technical co-founder. So I went to Craigslist and I posted a job. And one of the first applications that came through, he was so passionate, quote unquote, I actually looked back at the email the other day when I was putting together the presentation, and it said something like, call me crazy, but I'm gonna apply for this, because if I don't, I think I'm gonna regret it for my entire life. So I said, okay, love your passion, come with me, let's go on this wild ride. So for the next 9 months, we worked together. I moved back in with my parents, and we spent our $25K on designers and branding and all that stuff that I thought was important. Well, it is, but not at the MVP stage. And we, got close to launch. I had lined up 100 beta customers. Thought, okay, here we go, ready to go. Lined up the media. We launched May 1st. So I'd spent my $25K. Was still living at home. It launches. We cheer champagne glasses. I'm so excited for what's to come. He tells me he's quitting. So, okay. So technical co-founder, quit. And it's an online platform, still lots of development to be done. No more money in the bank. Okay. So it was hard, but I continued and started talking to the customers. So I was like, great. So we're out of our beta period. Thanks for the free exposure. Now it's time to pay up. They're like, actually, we love the exposure, but really what we want to pay for is customers through our door. Please develop a local e-commerce platform. It's like, great. So I'm without a tech co-founder. Now they've told me to develop a new product, not technical. Now what? So, a couple days lying in bed, not wanting to get out of bed. Got back to it, said, okay, let's put my scholarship applying skills to practice. So I started applying for grants. And lo and behold, I put together $30K in grant funds from various technical grants. Canada's great for that. And managed to scrape together enough money to hire a part-time developer. From there, we bootstrapped the first iteration of what became Ethical Deal, North America's largest eco-friendly local daily deal green site, which drove customers through local green businesses' doors. Exactly what my customers wanted. And that's where we made millions, and that's where we grew our user base into the hundreds of thousands, and I sold my company. So now that I'm in a different place, I can reflect back and think about, okay, well, what happened there? And what I've learned from that is to understand what motivates people to join. So what I learned was that for him, developing a product from scratch, that was his entrepreneurial journey. And I respect that. But for me, it was launching the product and growing the company. So he played an important role, but he wasn't the right technical co-founder to lead me, and be with me through that entire journey. So, and the other thing I have to say that I learned is not to hire a technical co-founder on Craigslist. So, 2 lessons learned. Now, that is one of my stories. I have many stories, and you feel free to buy me a beer or whatever, and I'll tell you more. But today I could have told you about the day I went to court to get $10,000 in lost inventory back. The day I pivoted and had to lay off 50% of my staff. the day I borrowed $20,000 from my parents to make payroll, the day I lost half my sales proceeds when my acquirer went bankrupt. There are many stories like this from my 7 years in entrepreneurship. The point I want to make is that all these challenges are just, pinpoints on a journey, and that every challenge is progress. And I titled the slide, "I Will Survive," and I wanted the music to be playing, but it was going to be too complicated. So just imagine her singing, "I will survive." So here, you have to remember as an entrepreneur, as you start your journey, that there will be highs and lows. Everybody knows that. But what I think most people don't really think about is that even when you're up top, you got to remember a low is coming. And so my staff often talk about how even-keeled I am. This is why. Because it's never as bad as it seems, but the same is true for the upside. So calm down when great stuff happens, because there is something else coming. And so now I know how to prepare for that, and I try to, as my team grows, prepare them for that so that they can start thinking like that as well, because it is just a journey, but it's always, there's an upwards trajectory, and it's always progress. Now I'm gonna leave you with a haiku. I worked hard on this. Feel free to tweet this. At SocialNature, euphoria and terror embrace the struggle. So if I haven't scared you, we're hiring for engineers and for sales. I'm open for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch quite all of the setbacks. I was just curious, if you could go into one or two of those. Let's say you pivoted and had to lay off 50% of the staff. How did you deal with that? How did you bounce back?
Sure. So the question was if I could dive into another one of those challenges. And so the one you want me to talk about is the one where I pivoted and had to lay off 50% of my staff. So how did I deal with that? I would say that laying off or having people quit or firing isn't like, that's always the worst day. I don't think those can ever get better. But what was painful is that as I was looking at the next kind of iteration of where I was going is, how can the people that I was currently working with exist in the new model? And some of them did, and so some of them I was able to carry over. Some of them didn't, and I tried to find homes for them. And some of them just, there wasn't, a home that I could find for them, and they couldn't carry over into the new company. What I learned from that was not to drag that process out, because I think for a couple months I was trying to make that work for as long as possible, trying to kind of straddle both business models and figure out a place for everybody. And that's where it started becoming a little toxic, because people were like, okay, am I on the new business model, or am I stuck with the old? And so in hindsight, as they always say, hire slowly, fire quickly. I should have been more decisive about making those decisions quickly and not having that drag on, because that became a little toxic. But when we did the layoffs and kind of gave birth to the new company, the people that were on board were the right people, and now we're doing great. And thank you for your coverage of SocialNature in Beta Kit. Yes.
How did you and the company who you acquired find each other?
I hired a broker. So initially I did a bunch of my own pitching, and then I had a new idea, and so I was going through the Highline Accelerator with that new idea, and I was busy, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna hire someone in my industry to broker that relationship. So in the daily deals industry, that happened to be the president of the Canadian Daily Deals Association, who was super tapped into the community at large, and he knew who was buying whom and what was happening. And so there was a US company that was looking to go public and was doing a lot of Canadian acquisitions, and so he did the matchmaking. Yeah.
So the reason that you just felt that you'd taken it as far as you could go with that model?
So the question was the reason for selling the company and whether I had taken it as far as I could, and yeah. So it was actually in response to customer feedback. So my customers have guided me along the way. And my customers were asking me, or my users, I should say, were asking me for everyday greener choices instead of the nice to haves that I was promoting them, like restaurants and spas and things like that. And I had started working with brands, and brands were like, man, you have this online database of consumers that I can target and I can get my product into their hands. You know, how can we make this happen? But the ethical deal business model, which required 50% off for everything, was a challenge for brands to work with because retailers always want the best deal. So I saw this opportunity in the marketplace to connect brands to a very targeted group of consumers who were so passionate that they would talk about the products that they tried and loved on social. And I saw the future of marketing being more peer-to-peer. And so I kind of, was looking at the long game and realized that the business model of ethical deal just wasn't going to work in the consumer packaged goods space. And so developed a new model. And with that new model, gained some traction, gained confidence in that new model, and was excited about it. So I decided, I could either close down, pivot, or sell. And in a sense, I did all three. Yeah.
Great story, Annalea. Thanks for sharing. So it was a long journey, 7 years. What was it that kept you going through the tough times and the good times?
Certainly the balance of the highs and the lows. There has to be highs for one to keep going. Sometimes the time between the highs is longer than one would like. But certainly I think a quality that you'll always see in all entrepreneurs is perseverance and determination. There is not much that can deter. And so I think for me, progress is really important. And so sometimes I think what I've learned to do is see progress, not necessarily in the really big things, but also in the small things, just so that I can stay motivated. So for myself, if I made X number of calls a day, or if I completed a task, that's progress to me. So yeah, learning how to find progress even when there isn't a press piece or a new launch or a new deal has been important. And once you do it enough, you always know that a high will always come. Like you just know it's coming around the corner. And so it's like, how long can I wait to get to that point? And whoever hangs on the longest wins.